Welcome to Unit 44, the review of 100 questions based on all chapters of the broker course. A listing broker offers compensation to a cooperating buyer's broker. When the buyer's broker presents an offer, the listing broker states the buyer's broker's commission will be less than originally offered. Which of the following is correct? The brokers may not allow the dispute to jeopardize the transaction. So the dispute over commission will have to be solved after the transaction, but it cannot halt the transaction. A property with two loans against it has been sold at a foreclosure auction. After taxes have been paid, what is the order of disbursement of funds? So the order in which funds are paid out first. So the order would be foreclosure costs and fees, first loan, second loan, then the borrower last. After conducting an administrative hearing in which a licensee is found at fault, the commissioner may take all of the following actions except what? So the action that the commissioner is not allowed to take is order payment from the recovery fund. The commissioner is not allowed to complete that action. A person holds an easement across a neighbor's property to reach their garage. The neighbor's property is called what? The neighbor's property is called the servient tenement. A licensee runs the following ad in a neighboring state. Beautiful 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home with newly remodeled kitchen in a nice Hispanic area of Elmwood Hills is listed for $250,000 with seller carryback financing available at 6.5% interest for 20 years. The terms stated in this ad are violating what law or what rules? It's in violation of fair housing laws. You cannot mention race. It is a protected class. Arizona law requires that property management agreements must contain all the following provisions except what? Written registration of prospective tenants. That is not required in property management agreements. If seller carries back a purchase money trust deed, the seller is called the beneficiary. The Arizona Residential Landlord and Tenant Act is enforced by who? Is enforced by the courts. So any disputes between landlord and tenants will be handled by the court system. When advertising via a web page, which of the following is true? So advertising laws. The broker's name must appear prominently on every page without the viewer having to scroll down to see it. So it has to be prominently on every page at the top of the page. A parcel of unimproved subdivided land is purchased. Soon after the purchase, the buyer discovers there's no access to the land. So the purchaser may rescind the contract. It has to be able to have ingress and egress. So they're able to rescind the contract for the unimproved subdivided land. Under a deed of trust, the bare legal title is conveyed to the trustee for which of the following reasons? It allows the trustee to conduct a foreclosure without going to court. In order to comply with Arizona statutory requirements, all the following must be contained in an employment agreement except commission splits. So that does not have to be in an employment agreement. It is not a requirement. A broker must open a permanent file and keep it for a minimum of 5 years for all the following documents except rejected offers. So a broker must open a permanent file and keep it open for 5 years for buyer-broker agreements, listings, and option contracts. Rejected offers are kept for less than 5 years. 3 people had invested $40,000 in a property. They later sued the broker, and eventually the recovery fund paid the investors. The maximum amount the investor could receive would be $30,000. That's the maximum amount that can be paid out per claim from the recovery fund. If a broker wanted to sell his home for sale by owner, what must be on the yard sign? The words owner agent. That is required to be on the sign if it is for sale by owner. A promissory note. What is a promissory note? It acknowledges debt. So when you get a loan, you get a promissory note as well. It is an IOU. It acknowledges a debt. If a broker posts a sign stating he will prepare contracts for $250, which of the following provisions are being violated? So which law is being broken? Article 26 of the Arizona Constitution. Article 26 allows real estate agents to write contracts. However, they cannot charge for those contracts. A tenant vacates a residential unit if the tenant does not receive notification of what items his or her security deposit was applied to and the security deposit is not returned. The tenant is entitled to receive what amount as damages. So if they are not notified of the security deposit, what it was applied to, and if any was returned, they are able to receive what amount of damages? 2 times the deposit. The Equal Credit Opportunity Act extends protection over and above the Federal Fair Housing Act to which of the following groups? So what are the shared protected classes between these two acts? Marital status and age. A physician runs his practice from the bottom floor of his 2-story home. The zoning in his neighborhood changes to a single-family residence, but he may continue his practice at home. This is an example of non-conforming use. So it is being used as a business, but then the zoning got changed to residential, but is still allowed to continue his practice. It is non-conforming use. A landlord has a residential lease for $600 per month of rent. In addition to the first and last month's rent, how much can a landlord take as a security deposit? $300. So it would be half a month's rent. A woman and her brother hold property in joint tenancy. If the woman deeds her part to her husband, what happens? The joint tenancy is broken. Now possession is changed. The primary function of FNMA is to what? FNMA, Fannie Mae, to buy loans at a discount from lenders. A municipality allows citizens over age 59 a $5,000 deduction on assessed valuation. If a home is valued at $90,000, has an assessed value ratio of 20%, and the tax rate is $44 per 1,000 of assessed value, What are the annual taxes for an owner over 59 years old? The answer would be $572. A residential leasing company hires an agent who has been issued a provisional license by ADRE to manage their trust account. 1 month later, the broker notices that money is missing from the trust account, and they immediately replace the money and fire the licensee. What else must the broker do? They must inform the Arizona Department of Real Estate of the problem. According to the Arizona Residential Landlord and Tenant Act, if a tenant is delinquent in the payment of rent, a minimum of how many days' notice is required before a forcible entry and detainer action can be filed? So the minimum days' notice is 5. So if a tenant is delinquent in the payment of rent, the minimum of 5 days' notice is required before forcible entry and detainer action. What are the benefits of a beneficiary deed? It allows you to transfer ownership without probate. A salesperson sells a property to buyer J and opens escrow. Prior to closing, the salesperson's employing broker has his license suspended for actions in another transaction. When sale to buyer J closes, which of the following statements regarding the recipient of commissions is correct? So, a salesperson had their license suspended in another transaction prior to this original transaction closing. So, what happens to the commission? Both the broker and salesperson are entitled to commissions because they were licensed when they started the transaction. An investor owns a 36-acre parcel and wants to develop it with lots of minimum size of 2.5 acres. What is the minimum amount of lots the investor can develop without creating a subdivision? The maximum amount of lots the investor can develop is 5. Once it becomes 6, it is considered subdivided. P paid $125,500 for a parcel of land in a section at $18,000 per acre. What percentage of the same section does P own? They own 1%. The listing expires while the owner is out of town. What should the listing agent do in relation to the for sale sign? They must remove the sign and wait until the owner returns to sign an extension agreement. Which type of deed creates the least liability for the seller? A quitclaim deed. So a quitclaim deed signs away the interest in the property. So it's the least liability for a seller. A title search shows a lis pendens has been recorded, but the court order of foreclosure has been terminated. How would this lis pendens be terminated? Quiet title action. Who pays for property taxes and assessments under the terms of a net lease? Under a net lease, the leasee pays for property taxes and assessments. If a buyer wants to transfer her rights in a purchase contract to another person, She would do so through what method? Through assignment. That'll be a transfer of rights. So if you assign, like assigning a loan to someone else, that is a transfer of rights. In this case, the transfer of rights in a purchase contract to another person. What is the first step taken after the notice of default and trustee sale is recorded in a non-judicial trust deed foreclosure? First step taken is the notice is sent to the debtor. A charge, an employment agreement, or consulting agreement for initial consultation and or research is deemed to be earned when paid is called what term? It's called a retainer fee. If a subdivider wants to sell land in an active management area, they must provide what document? A certificate of assured water supply. All of the following contracts must be reviewed by the broker within 10 business days, except what contracts? Residential leases. They are not required to be reviewed by the broker within 10 business days. But purchase agreements, all non-residential leases, and commercial leases are required to be reviewed by the broker. When participating in a real estate transaction, a licensee should do what? They should disclose any information which adversely and materially affects the consideration to be paid. In Arizona, state environmental standards are enforced by what group? In Arizona Department of Environmental Quality. So ADEQ. If a man in Phoenix dies intestate while eminent domain is being exercised against his property in a blighted area, the proceeds would go to who? It would go to his heirs according to law. So intestate means without a will. So their property would, the proceeds would go to the heirs. Eminent domain is the act where the government can take property for government purpose. So the proceeds from that would go to the heirs. A buyer is purchasing a home, and 12 days after the loan application is made, the lender discovers that the buyer has unpaid student loans and the loan is denied. The buyer is trying to get a loan from another lender. The buyer's agent must do what? They must notify the seller's agent that the buyer may not qualify. The owners of a mobile home affix it to some land they own. To retire the title of the mobile home, the owners must do what? They must complete an affidavit of affixture and send it to the county recorder. Which of the following acts prevents the lender from holding excess money in an impound account? The Real Estate Settlement and Procedure Act, that's RESPA, which prevents the lender from holding excess money in an impound account. Which of the following residential property types is exempt from disclosure of bed bug infestation? Single-family homes. So single-family homes are exempt from disclosure of bed bug infestation, but multifamily homes, they have to disclose. Broker A, who specializes in industrial property, has a friend who wants to buy a home. Broker A refers the buyer to Broker B, who represents the buyer in the home purchase. The brokers have a referral fee agreement between them. What fiduciary duties does Broker A have to the friend? None, as only Broker B is representing the buyer. A broker is required to maintain their trust account in any depository located in Arizona which is federally insured or guaranteed. So if doing business in Arizona, it has to be in an Arizona located depository, whether it be bank or credit union, and it must be federally insured or guaranteed. P sells the right to the oil and gas found on P's land to an oil company. P then sells a fee simple interest to a third party, reserving the coal interest. What ownership interest does P have? Ownership of the coal. E has a 174,240 square foot parcel that she intends to sell for $1,500 per acre. How much would E receive if she sold 2/5 of the parcel? She will receive $2,400. How far from the principal meridian is Township 5 North, Range 3 West? 12 to 18 miles. All of the following procedures relate to a trust deed foreclosure except forfeiture. That procedure does not relate to a trust deed foreclosure. When does a broker need to notify the ADRE of a change in mailing address? You must notify the ADRE of a change in mailing address within 10 days. Which of the following is not part of an affidavit of disclosure? Appraisal. The appraisal is not part of an affidavit of disclosure. A couple sells a property through a short sale and the HOA dues have not been paid for over a year. Who is legally responsible to pay them? The seller. HOA dues follow the seller. A 10-unit apartment building is sold. Security deposits total $1,000 and paid rent for the month totals $8,000. If closing occurs on the 15th of the month, what is the credit due to the buyer? And assume the buyer is credited for the day of closing. So this is a prorating question. The answer would be $5,267. All of the following people can be authorized to withdraw money from a trust account, except who? The client. They are not allowed to withdraw money from a trust account. When can a real estate salesperson legally be licensed under two brokers? When one is a residential resale broker and the other is a cemetery broker. It's the only way a real estate salesperson legally can be licensed under two brokers. The Arizona Residential Landlord and Tenant Act addresses all the following areas except what category? It does not go over property management agreements. A city wants to create a zone for a green overlay in a blighted area. Which of the following is correct? The city may acquire the property by paying just compensation to the owner only after the property is condemned. If a licensee is subpoenaed to show the Department of Real Estate certain documents and the licensee refuses, what court would the commissioner go to in order to compel compliance? The commissioner would have to go to Superior Court. In a new Arizona subdivision, the buyers are informed of taxes and other fees through what method? Through the public report. If a property is described as the north half of the southeast quarter of a section and is offered for $325 per acre, what is the listing price? It would be $26,000. Two friends are partners in a corporation and they wish to purchase some property. If they are using their corporation for the purchase, how would title be taken? It will be taken in severalty. Federal law requires that the borrower must be informed of the true cost of obtaining credit. Is the Truth in Lending Act. A tenant did $900 worth of destruction to an apartment. The tenant had paid a $300 security deposit and left a television set worth $600 in the apartment. The landlord mailed an itemized statement of the damages to the tenant within 2 days of the tenant's vacating the premises, and the tenant returned in 7 days and demanded his belongings. The landlord can perform what action? Can keep the landlord can keep only the $300. A salesperson sold property out of state. The salesperson can legally be paid by who? The employing broker. A property that produces $3,000 in net income per year was valued using a capitalization rate of 7.5%. Its value is what? It's $40,000. Which of the following situations would be grounds for invalidating a contract? A person enters into a contract while intoxicated. In Arizona, grandfathered irrigation water rights are conveyed with the property. An associate broker is helping an investor buy properties. The investor wants to purchase a billboard that reads, "We'll pay cash for your home. Call this number." And the phone number will go directly to the associate's broker's phone. According to the commissioner's rules, this is not allowed because the fact that the investor is working with the broker is hidden. That needs to be stated on the advertisement. Any affiliated businesses. If a buyer wants to take possession of a property one day prior to closing, they must get a written permission from the seller. So if a buyer wants to take possession of a property one day prior to closing, they must get written permission from the seller. Which of the following is not a statutory requirement regarding a subdivision that is located within an active management area? The municipality can bond for water improvements. So it is not a statutory requirement regarding a subdivision in an active management area. The best example of redlining is denying a loan due to what circumstance? Because the house is located in a certain area. Redlining is denying a loan based on location. In Arizona, a renewable water resource that has application to obtaining a 100-year assured water supply is called what? The Central Arizona Project. In a new development, an HOA is being formed. They will meet monthly on the last Thursday of each month. Their meetings must comply with what documents? With open meeting laws. A licensee may have legal counsel representation at an Arizona Department of Real Estate hearing. Under what circumstances? At any time. A property manager's agreement should contain all of the following items except the tenant's purpose. That is not required in a property manager agreement. The buyer makes monthly payments to the seller but does not receive title until the full balance is paid off. This is usually called an agreement for sale. All of the following must be included in an affidavit of value except what term? The contingencies of the sale. A month-to-month lease requires the tenant to pay the rent on the first of each month. On March 15th, the landlord notifies the tenant that the lease will be terminated. On which date will the tenant need to vacate? April 30th. In a purchase money loan, which of the following provisions would not be a benefit to the seller? Non-recourse clause. What is not considered to be an operating expense on income property? Mortgage payments. In Arizona, a broker may place a commission lien on a property for a transaction involving a commercial lease, Regarding comparables, an appraiser would disregard all of the following sales except what kind of sale? At arm's length. A residential rental property is damaged by wind, which makes the property uninhabitable. The lease is terminated. So what happens next? The lease is terminated constructively by the tenant, providing proper written notice to the landlord. Under Arizona law, what happens to community property when one spouse dies? 50% passes to the deceased heirs. A person must be a licensed real estate broker or salesperson in order to receive compensation for advertising a buyer regarding the purchase of property, advising a buyer. The Arizona Real Estate Department can issue a temporary broker's license in all the following situations except in the extended vacation of a broker. When using the comparative method, an appraiser would make an adjustment for all the following items except financing terms the same as the subject property. An owner conveys a fee simple estate to a grantee or reserves himself a life estate. The grantee has a remainder interest. In the listing for the sale of a cafe, it states that all personal property does not convey. If a prospective buyer asks about a serving counter, the listing agent should state it doesn't transfer because it is a trade fixture. The first step in a tax lien foreclosure is notifying the owner by certified mail of the pending foreclosure. A homestead exemption may protect the owner's equity in all the following property types except commercial property. They do not get homestead exemption. Which of the following items will be least important in a market data approach? Original cost of the property. The broker is offering a free home warranty with the sale of a house. The ad must contain all of the following except the name of the company offering the warranty. The purpose of an affidavit of value is to inform the assessor of the sales price. If a broker moves or abandons his business location without notice to the real estate department, the commissioner will cancel the broker's license. An applicant for a real estate salesperson's license must complete a licensure disclosure form. And that was all 100 questions for Unit 44. Next up will be Unit 45 with another review of a different set of 100 questions.